I think it's impossible to put a number on anything because every person is so individual, but like just firmly stand with the if you're good enough, you're old enough, and I don't know what number that is.
Welcome to We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T. I'm Alicia Jay, and today we have a very special guest, someone that I know I've been wanting to talk to as someone who is from Portland. By the way, I'm a Portland girl. So Portland Thorns midfielder Olivia Moultrie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm from Portland, so I'm very acquainted with the Thorns. And it's your fifth NWSL season with the Thorns, and I mean, it seems like kind of like you just started, right? But 5 years is a lot. You've had a lot of years under your belt. What would you say is the biggest thing that you've learned in your first 4 years in the league?
I would say, honestly, just like handling big situations. I think as the league has grown and just as we get more fans in games, it's like before a couple years ago, you would go to different places and it wouldn't feel like too crazy because it wouldn't be that loud. I feel like Portland was like the place where it's like, ooh, it's gonna be like booming loud, fans are screaming. So like, but they're on our side. So it's the easiest to deal with and you have that momentum. And I think now going to places and learning to kind of counteract the momentum has been difficult. And is a good learning lesson. And I feel like you kind of like get a refresher of that every year. Like going to Kansas City, it's like, dang, like they have the crowd at their backs and it's like a good lesson for the team to learn. I feel like that's something that has just been huge as the league has continued to grow. Good problems to have, but obviously something that like you want to perfect as you go on the road. So
Yeah, I mean, it really is a good problem to have. And obviously, you say they're there for their hometown team, and obviously, we get that. But is there
mhm.
any other stadium, mentioning going to play in all of these places that you really like to play in outside of playing at home with the Thorns?
Yeah. I always love playing when it's loud, whether they're my fans or not. I think like that's kind of the allure of being a professional athlete, right? Is getting to play in front of people like that. Obviously more and more places like that. Kansas City is a really good example. I feel like LA definitely has some of that. But like I love Orlando and Houston's fields, two of the worst places to play in terms of the heat, but
Yeah.
their stadiums are very nice. So I always enjoy those games. So I'm like, dang, they had to hit us with the hard weather though. But yeah.
Yeah, I can't even imagine playing in that heat or playing in like super, super cold either. I don't know. Both of them, I'm sure, have their pluses and minuses. Which one do you like better?
I probably would. I feel like since we play in the summer, we don't experience like the extreme cold anywhere, like considering the time our season takes place. But
That's
I
true.
have played in weather cold enough that I felt like my body wasn't functioning. So I probably would choose the heat where I'm like, I literally feel like I'm shutting down right now. So I think I gotta choose heat over extreme cold. But I feel like everywhere is pretty nice this time of year. So I would always choose for it to be cooler as opposed to 95 and humid. So
What about the rain? Because coming from Portland, I know how it rains. I know how it goes. How is it like in the rain? I mean, I can't even imagine kicking anything in some puddles. So,
I I guess it really depends on where you are. Like for Portland, since we have a turf field, it's like the rain is kind of almost feels like an advantage to me. I'm like, hey, ball's moving fast. Like you're not really gonna find any puddles on the turf. The turf won't get worse like grass would. It won't get muddy. So like I kind of love when it rains during our games. Now on the other hand, if you find yourself in San Diego and it starts pouring, that's not as fun. So yeah, I guess it kind of depends on where you are, but I would never say no to a light drizzle during a game. I feel like that's like peak weather.
that is good to know. Because from the outside, I would say absolutely not. So, that's
Fair enough. You probably
that's what
don't
I
want
would
to be
say.
watching it in the rain either. So
Well, speaking of playing at home, you started off the season with your first game with a goal, the first goal of the season for Portland, and your 25th career goal contribution that surpasses Trinity Rodman for the most by a teenager for NWSL teams in all competitions. What are your thoughts about it? Despite the loss that you had, but what are your thoughts about being in that company?
obviously very cool company. I didn't even know about the stat till I saw the Instagram post, can't even lie. So like I had no idea. For me it's like I'm just thinking about contributing to winning. How can I help my team? Like, do whatever it takes in terms of helping us be successful. But obviously, very cool to see something like that hit a stat like that and just be something that's like a cool memory for me to be like, all right, like we're building and the teen years have been fun, but like things have happened and exciting things have happened. And, I've grown a lot as a player. But obviously now, like, yeah, it's cool. Just seeing more teenagers be able to play, so it's even possible to have stats like that. So yeah, it's fun and it's cool company to keep, and it's exciting to keep moving forward.
So you found out on the Instagram post after the game? Nobody even told you? Like,
I
during?
think somebody told me about something else, like I needed a certain amount of goals to hit like most goals as a teenager, something like that. And I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. But I didn't even know about like the total goal contributions. And then I got like they want to collaborate with you on Instagram notification. I was like, what the heck? And then I go and I see that. I'm like, this is a really cool post though. Like I'm really feeling this design and I like this picture. But yeah, I didn't even know about it till I saw it.
Well, shout out to the social team at the Thorns because
They're
apparently
on
the design was on point and they were on it.
it.
And you hit that collab button. Well, speaking of the team this year, what do you see and what are you most excited about this season for your team? And just, your play in general.
Yeah, I think for us, like we're a young squad, and so I think a lot of people are kind of like they don't really have high expectations for us. And I think I'm never gonna say no to being the underdog because I love like exceeding people's expectations. So I think there's a little bit of like we have a little bit of that kind of grit, want to prove people wrong type of energy, and I think that's always a fun thing to have. I think it's fun to prove people wrong. I feel like I've had a lot of moments like that in my career, just like doing things when I did them and how I did them. Like a lot of people just doubting that. And so I'm familiar with that position, and I feel like there's a little bit or a lot bit, I guess, depending on who's feeling it, energy around us this year with that. And so I find that fun for us. And I think the team is embracing like we don't have to worry about anything. We get to completely just come together and build in every moment and get to know each other and become the best that we can be. And there's not some pressure on us to be like, oh, like we're coming back off a championship or we're coming off a team where people are like, oh, they need to win this many X many games, and things like that. So it's like there are no expectations in a way. We obviously have expectations for ourselves and we want to be successful, but it's fun to just feel like we're just in it together, every single one of us, and we're unified and just like we're going to get better every day and we're going to be a hard team to play against. And like that's our goal and obviously we want to win, but it's like we're going to make every single game competitive and it's fun to just be able to build and get better in each game. So
When you speak of building, it's obviously important to do that. And you guys sound like you have that all handled, but there's been a number of changes on the team. How are you guys in the midst of you building, also kind of gelling together as you go into the season?
hmm I think preseason was big for us. We have a lot of new faces. Like the team is from my first year on the team to this year, like crazy, just completely different. And so I think preseason was huge for us in terms of just not getting to know each other just on the field, but as people. And I feel like the more unified your group is on and off the field, the more success you're going to be able to have. I feel like everyone gets along really well, which just makes playing that much more fun and that much better. And so I feel like those are the things that like really have set us up for this year.
Mm.
And obviously, yes, we'll be building, but I think like we know each other really well. And so we're ready to attack the things in front of us. And we've committed to like what we are committed to as a team and how we feel and kind of what our identity is. And so I think that will continue to highlight itself on the field. But yeah, I feel like we're very unified in our common goal of like, we want to win, we want to be our best selves, and we're going to attack that every day. So.
So looking at the building, looking at the common goals, let's look towards the end of the season. I know that we're just in the beginning, but let's look towards the end. What would be an accomplishment for you personally, and what would be the biggest accomplishment for the entire team when you see what your goals are?
I mean, the ultimate goal is to win a championship, and winning a shield would be great too, right? Obviously, the season's long, it's hard, this league's competitive, but like I would be lying to say that we're not still aiming to be the best, because we are, and that's what we want. I would say personally that like sometimes it's hard to name things because it's like you just don't know how the year's going to go. And I obviously have goals for myself as a player is like I want to one day be considered amongst the best players in the world. Like I want to play on the national team consistently, and for my club, it's like I want to be a focal point for that. I want to be a huge driving force behind like us winning and us being successful. And that of course relies a lot upon my teammates and me knowing them and us being our best selves together. But yeah, those are some of my personal goals, but more importantly just continuing to build and grow and get better every day, because like I said, you just never know what's going to happen in a year. Like last year going through multiple surgeries, like having knee surgery in the middle of the year, then I needed ankle surgery at the end of the year, so that kind of impacted my build into this year. So just like the things that sometimes people don't see or know about, and it's like, oh well, why didn't this year go as planned? It's like you can never plan what you're going to get as a professional athlete, right? So like for me, it's just what does the next day look like? How am I getting better? How am I getting closer to my ultimate goal? But yeah, for the team being successful and me hopefully being a big part of that is my plan. So
Well, you talked about, surgeries and the years that you've been playing and your goals and being a pro. You went pro at just 13 years old. When you think back on the journey, how would you describe it now?
yeah, roller coaster. um, it was crazy, and like I couldn't have in a million years told you how that was going to go. Like from when being 13 to finally making my debut at 15, like I couldn't have explained how that was going to go to anybody till it happened. And sometimes I still go through the process and I'm like, what the heck? Like how did I even get to this point? How did that even happen? Um like never mind my plan to go and sue the NWSL to be able to play and equal opportunity for men and women. Like these are things that you kind of just like read about in news articles and you're like, whoa, that's really cool. And then all of a sudden I was in it. So that was pretty crazy, but I don't regret one bit of it. Obviously, helping me become the player that I am today, the person that I am today. I feel like I've grown and matured a lot since becoming a pro at 13. And I just want to continue building. Hopefully, there's not as many crazy moments. I hope there's a lot of exciting moments still coming. But yeah, I think everything that I've done previously has just put me in the position that I am now. So I'm extremely grateful for that. And yeah, excited for all that is to come. So
Well, you talked about, things that have happened previously. You made history in the NWSL by becoming the youngest player to play for a team at 15. And, there were years that, there was a legal battle that was going on. And recently, Mac, she just made history. So recently, Mac Whittam made her debut for Gotham at 14 years and 8 months old, making her the youngest player in history to play in the NWSL regular season game. What is it like for you to see those debuts after, everything that you did to become a pro? And, what would your message be to her on that history making that she just did?
yeah, I think it's really cool for me to see that. Like when I went through everything that I went through, it was always like if you're good enough, you're old enough. And the people around me believed in me to do that, and like that was kind of the message that I was putting out there. And so for me to just see people like be able to do that now, like I get freaking excited. Like I never would have been able to like going into it, obviously you're not planning on like what really will happen, years and years after you're done with it. You're just thinking about the now and like kind of the injustice and wanting to play and all the things that come with that. And so now being a couple years removed from that, like I'm just really happy that it has been a positive influence and that people are now able to do what they love without having a restriction of something as silly as you're not like a number of your age. Like that's to me, that was always just like, what the heck? Um, and so I love getting to see that. And like, if I had any advice for her, it's just to like continue to live her dream and focus on her goals. Like, obviously, she's doing that, and it's really exciting to see the players that have been able to. And it'll be fun. It's always fun when I play against those teams and I can kind of see those people and meet them and just be able to tell them good job and to just keep loving what they do, because I never wanted anyone to be able or to have to go through what I did. So I'm glad that it's easier for them now. And I just want them to be able to enjoy like life as a professional athlete. It's really special. And there shouldn't be as many hardships in terms of just feeling like you aren't welcome or that you can't be what you want to be. I think like everyone talks about that, right? With young women, just like being able to follow their dreams. And so now seeing girls be able to do that is really exciting for me, makes me really happy.
Yeah, definitely something that I feel like has been happening obviously more and more. And there's a lot of chatter around it. People are saying, like, what is too young for a player to start? Do you think there is ever an age that is too young for a player to play in the
Um,
NWSL or
I think
professionally?
it's hard, like I said, it's hard to put a number on anything. Like, people's bodies mature at different ages, like, mentally people are at different places at different times, like, it's so individual. And when I started training with the team at 13, like, looking back, like, I could see how much of a baby I was. And I felt ready right then, right? Like, me individually being in the moment and feeling like I was good enough to play and influence at 14, and then, finally being able to get through everything at 15 and be able to play, like, looking back, I'm like, dang, that was crazy. But in the moment, I was like, 100% I'm ready, no doubts. And so I think it's impossible to put a number on anything because every person is so individual. But like, just firmly stand with the if you're good enough, you're old enough. And I don't know what number that is, but I know that the people around you and like being able to have people that you trust and support to let you know and help you understand if that is the right decision for you, I think is obviously very important because there is a point where maybe it is too young, like, are you physically ready to compete in this league? That's obviously something that is a thought that has to go into it, not only skillfully, but like this league is competitive and it's hard and it requires a lot. And so those are things that the people around you and the people you trust like need to be able to be honest with you about. But yeah, I don't know if there is a specific number, but I hope that those people who make those decisions really are ready for that because obviously we just want that to be a successful thing and not something that it's like you're just throwing kids into it when they're not ready. So that'll be important, but I think so far so good.
Yeah. And I think the other conversation that happens around that always is like, is it okay for these young women to be playing alongside adults who are like in their 20s and 30s? What are your thoughts on that? Because, it is a very vast difference in age.
Hmm. Yeah, I think the NWSL now is putting in place things that like protect young players, and obviously, I think that's important to a certain extent. I personally, when I had to deal with things like being in a separate locker room and kind of being away from my teammates, like that was hard, and I can understand why people feel those things are important, right? Just the age differences, being young, wanting people to be able to develop, and I like can only speak to my personal experiences in terms of like I'm kind of an old soul, so I always was right in the center of it. Like I wanted to be with my teammates, like being around older people has always been normal for me. So it was kind of a fun adjustment. Obviously 13 is like very young, and so I did feel that a little bit when I was in the group, but um I think as soon as I got on the field, like I made friends on the field first, if that makes sense, kind of just showing that, like, no, I'm ready and you can respect me on the field. And then that helped me build my relationships off the field. Um, and so I can't speak for everyone, but that was the way that it worked for me. And kind of earning people's respect that way helped me build friendships off the field. And once my teammates kind of saw what I was going through to be able to play, like that helped our relationships a lot. That brought me closer to them, just them supporting me through that. And yeah, so I think it's different for everyone and it's good to be prepared and it's good that it's happening more. So it's becoming more normal. But yeah, those are some of my experiences with it. And I think it's going pretty well so far. So.
Yeah, and you spoke to the protections, right? You talked about being in a different locker room and that kind of thing. For those people who don't know, because some people are just learning about your story and all of that right now for the first time. What are some of those protections that they put in place, to kind of help with these young women who are coming into the league and playing in the league?
Yeah, I mean, there's some of the under 18 rules and things like that, and it's evolved even more over the last couple years. But yeah, like being in a separate locker room and having multiple people on your text messages and just like things like that, like not being alone and like doors open. I mean, this kind of applies to everyone, honestly. Like it's just about creating a safe work environment wherever you are, which is obviously very important. But hopefully it to me honestly it's like how can they make it as normal as possible while helping people feel
Mm.
comfortable. But I think that's part of like are you ready for it or not is like are you able to be in these situations and handle yourself is like that's a piece of like are you ready to be a professional athlete. And that was something that I learned at a really young age and helped me prepare for dealing with everything that I deal with now. So yeah, there are multiple things, but honestly if anything it's like kind of applies to everyone anyways, except for the weird things like you have to be in your own locker room, which was like kind of crappy for a little while. But because, team dynamics, right? You want to be around your teammates. So I would always be like going into the treatment room, into the pillar prep room, like just hanging out with everyone anyways, after you're ready for the day. But yeah, so there's some funny things like that. But once you're through it, I'm like, woof, never got to think about that again. It's very nice.
Right. But I mean, obviously they're there for, good reason, but I am sure there's a lot of adjustment. Going from talking about pro to college a little bit, now there's NIL, and at the time when you decided that you wanted to go pro, it wasn't there. But if it was there, do you think that would have affected, you wanting to go straight to the pros at the age that you did?
hmm I honestly don't think so, because for me, it was less about actually playing college soccer and more about the fact that I would have had to wait almost 6 years before I even got to the point of being able to play college soccer. So it was kind of like, what am I going to do in the now? How am I going to push myself and be in an environment that like helps me achieve my goals? And so I don't think much would change for me, because I still would have had to wait to get to the age where I could go to college. And I just knew that I didn't want to wait that long, and that I was ready for more, that I wanted a competitive environment to push me. And at the end of the day, like, being a professional was my dream, and being considered one of the best players in the world, like, that's what I'm striving for, that's what I'm working towards. And so I don't think that waiting that amount of time, like, not to say it wouldn't have happened at all, but for me personally, I just was in a position where I could do it earlier, and I was ready for that. So yeah, I don't think it would have changed my decisions.
Yeah, I'm still kind of salty that I didn't have it when I played basketball. So,
Yeah.
just had to ask you that question to see what you thought about it, because it has really obviously changed the game on so many levels.
hmm
Maybe, when we're looking at all the sports kind of across, I wonder how you feel it has changed soccer. Do you think that it has changed, having that added, has it changed soccer at all? Or do you think it's still kind of like catching up to where a sport like basketball, for example, would be?
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak to the details of it because obviously I'm not in it, so I don't know what those who have experienced NIL deals have dealt with. But just based off kind of what you're seeing, like with the WNBA and women's college basketball, like things with Caitlin Clark and Paige Beckers, and like, you see the amount of money that they're probably making with that. Like, that's obviously changing their lives in that way. And so I don't think, from what I've seen, it's on the same level for college soccer. Like, I would still say professional soccer, and brand deals and things like that are more where the vast majority of the money is for women's soccer. But obviously there are different situations for everyone, and there are different brands looking for different things from different people of all ages and in all places. So obviously that's not a 100%. um but I think in general, like, the more it grows, the different it could be. Like, I feel like it could do a 180 in a year, just with how fast everything's moving. But yeah, obviously trying to bring all of women's sports to the place where it's like, wherever you are at the highest level, it's like prime time, being in the eyes of the public, and being able to play at the highest level in front of a lot of people. So,
I'm with you completely. I think it has changed a lot of things for a lot of people, but it's just so interesting to me what sports it has changed the most in.
hmm
I also just want to say I'm digging this Red Bull hat that you're wearing right now. I'm like, when can I put in my bid to get a hat? But anyways, if anyone's listening, but you recently, got to sign with Red Bull alongside your Thorns teammate, Dana Castellanos. So really awesome to do that. What is it like getting to know her and share this? It's kind of like you're on a team, but then you're also sharing, this signing and being with Red Bull together. How has that been?
Yeah, it's really fun. I remember when Dana and I were talking about it, and I walked into our game with my Red Bull in my hand because I got to hit my pregame caffeine, and she was like, "Oh, which flavor do you like better?" and yada yada. And we were talking about like the pink can or the purple can, and it's it's just like fun to be able to have another connection. Because obviously on the field we're in positions where we're going to be connecting a lot, no matter where we are, just being in that kind of attacking um playmaking positions. And so it's fun to be able to build that relationship with her on the field, and then having something else to connect with off the field. And hopefully we'll be able to do some things with Red Bull together. It's super fun having her on my team, obviously, because there's only a couple of us in the league that are with Red Bull. So being able to have two of us on the same team is pretty fun. And just having her on the team this year will be really fun. She's fun to play with. And yeah, I'm really enjoying how that's going so far. So.
That's awesome. Well, we talked about, your team with the Thorns. We've talked about the history that you've made, the Red Bull history that you've also made signing with them. But you've recently began to feature more for the USWNT under Emma Hayes, which has been amazing to see all of that is going on. What has it been like getting to play for the USWNT and to be a part of this younger movement that is happening in the build to the 2027 World Cup?
Yeah, I think all of it's really exciting. I feel like how Emma sees the game is very similar to how I see the game. I think just bringing kind of some of that like European feeling of like we want to play, we want to possess, we want the ball. We're patient with it. Like we want to build and take our opportunities as they come. I think like that's a lot how I see the game, and so it's fun to see her bring that to the national team. I'm really excited to continue to work with her in the future and hopefully be there as much as possible. But I feel like she will absolutely help the US kind of continue to build and evolve as the women's game builds and evolves. And I think it'll be really fun. And obviously, she's been very successful, so I'm excited to continue to see and work with her. And yeah, I think it's a really great start, and we have a lot of time to be able to build together. So.
Well, being on, this team and working with Emma Hayes, I'm sure you had a USWNT player that you looked up to growing up. Who was it and why? And what about their style do you kind of look to emulate?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the whole like the national team in general, just kind of seeing their off the field build and them fighting for equal pay and women's rights, like that was obviously very inspiring to me. In terms of players on the field, like I try to take a lot of things from different players, right? Just trying to make myself as versatile as possible. Obviously, having watched and now played with both Lindsay Horan and Tobin Heath, those were two players for me that was like very fun to kind of always watching them and being like, okay, like I like those things. I want to take those things. Like I want to be great at those things also. And then being able to be on the field with them was like, oh, this is cool. Like I'm totally feeling this. Like I feel like we're on the same page. And now obviously Lindsay still getting to see her with the national team and play with her. Like I really enjoy that and continuing to build that relationship. I feel like we see the game very similarly. And those were definitely some people that I watched and now really enjoy playing with. So.
Well, you talk about the people that you have enjoyed playing with. I have enjoyed interviewing you today. So thank you so much for being with us, taking this time out. And if you want to watch more interviews like this, make sure that you comment, like, subscribe, do all of the things. We're also going to have a QR code at the end of this interview so you can connect and get those like direct hits of the interviews right when they land on our page. And if you don't subscribe, you won't get them. So make sure you do that. And again, thank you so much for being with us today. And until next time, this is We Need to Talk Now.